Today, Robinhood announces it will delist some of the tokens the SEC claims are securities. Crypto-friendly VC firm Andreessen Horowitz announces its expansion outside the U.S., and Brent Xu of Umee reacts to the weekend sell-off driven by altcoins. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Mackenzie Sigalos here in Portugal. Digital currencies coming off a brutal sell-off over the weekend, led mostly by altcoins. In the past 24 hours, Bitcoin was pretty much flat and trading just below the $26,000 level. Ether, meanwhile, trading above $1,700, and Solana trading all the way down at $15.21. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. First, Robinhood is shutting down trading of altcoins mentioned in last week's SEC lawsuits. In a blog post, the company said it would delist Cardano's ADA token, Polygon's Matic token, and Solana on June 27th. After that date, any of those tokens left in a Robinhood user's account would be sold and credited to their account balance. The change comes as Robinhood also reports a 43% month-over-month drop in crypto trading volume in May. Those tokens were among a dozen that the SEC listed as securities in its complaints against Binance and Coinbase. Now, the developers of those tokens are responding to that claim. The Solana Foundation tweeted on Saturday that it disagrees with the claim that Sol is a security and that it welcomed engagement with policymakers for legal clarity. Polygon also responded over the weekend, saying that the Matic token did not target the U.S. at any time. This comes after similar comments from Cardano that we told you about last week. Next up, crypto-friendly VC firm Andreessen Horowitz is expanding outside the U.S. The managing partner of A16Z's crypto unit, Chris Dixon, announced the firm would be opening a new headquarters in the U.K. and cited the country's crypto regulation as the reason. Specifically, Dixon said the UK was working constructively with the industry and still protecting consumers. Dixon also reiterated the firm's commitment to the US and that Andreessen would also keep working with policymakers for regulatory clarity in the States. Last, I just wrapped up my coverage here in Europe for both Bitcoin and ETH Prague. Developers and enthusiasts around the world descended on the conferences, and here are the highlights. Here in the Czech Republic, two major crypto conferences are underway, ETH Prague and Bitcoin Prague. The events are being held on opposite sides of town, and both have brought in the biggest names in the space. We've got people like Vitalik Buterin, the founder of the Ethereum blockchain, who I sat down with earlier this week to talk about what's next for the network, and Stani Kulichev, who launched Aave, one of the most popular lending protocols in decentralized finance. Meanwhile, Michael Saylor, Adam Back, and Jameson Lopp, a cypherpunk and software engineer, are all over at Bitcoin Prague. Now, also happening this week, Ethereum coders and developers headed up to the castle for special workshops and a dinner with the prince and princess here in Prague, who have themselves been experimenting with NFTs and the metaverse the last few years to preserve 700 years worth of historical artifacts. Definitely a lot more enthusiasm for crypto projects here in the EU versus the US, where Brussels has just released a progressive new set of rules for the industry. All right, back to crypto markets for our main story. Crypto World's Talia Kaplan spoke to Brent Xu, the founder and CEO of DeFi platform Umee, about the sell-off over the weekend.
I want to start off with your take on prices amid this backdrop of a crackdown by the SEC on crypto exchanges. In the past week, following charges against Binance and Coinbase, several altcoins plunged by at least 15%. In fact, in the 7 days ending Friday, Cardano's coin dropped 27%, Solana's lost 23%, and Polygon's tumbled 24%, while Binance's BNB token fell more than 18%. Compare that to Bitcoin and Ether, which both lost about 2.5% of its value over that same time period, a lot less than those altcoins. So how do you explain all of that, all that price movement that we saw over the past week?
So prior to the SEC announcement, there was already a lack of liquidity in the secondary markets for different types of crypto assets. Once the announcement of the enforcement came into play against Coinbase and Binance, this resulted in further lack of liquidity and further major trading organizations exiting the market. What we saw during the weekend was just a culmination of a lot of these negative sentiments towards the industry that resulted in more price depreciation for various altcoins. During the weekend segment, we saw the dramatic decrease of various altcoins, and this really was a delayed effect after the original announcements earlier in the week. And it's possible that we're going to see more and more price depreciation just due to liquidity leaving the market as different investors and trading organizations realize that there is more regulatory enforcement coming.
So Robinhood announced on Friday that it will delist some of the tokens the SEC claims are securities. Do you think that's playing into the price movement at all?
These types of things are expected. Whenever you're dealing with regulated financial trading organizations, dealing with securities regulation, the right amount of scrutiny needs to be put in place to ensure that you're not really breaking any laws when it comes to dealing with these types of assets. So the Robinhood approach to this, the Robinhood reaction gives indication just how major fintech companies like them are dealing with something like this. That being said, I'd say that decentralization does have its place in this overall technological development ecosystem. And what this initial implementation of regulation does help to do is it helps create more clarity. It helps force different companies to provide the right clarity along with regulators to figure out what is the path for this technology going forward. And so that's kind of the way to look at it. Robinhood doing what they did is just an indication that either they want to figure out the right laws or at least give time to ensure that they're adhering to the right ways to look at this tech.
So Umee, of course, is a layer one blockchain focused on DeFi. Can you take us through your vision for the future of DeFi amid this backdrop of the SEC's crackdown on crypto exchanges and, of course, the collapse of those crypto-friendly banks, Silvergate and Signature, back in March?
DeFi is a constantly evolving ecosystem that has a lot of very useful use cases for broader crypto assets. That being said, one perspective on the future development of this industry is developing a more regulated framework for how a lot of these financial products can be instantiated in an automated fashion. So initially in the life cycle of crypto, you had DeFi. As you look towards more DeFi, DeFi, traditional finance hybrids, you're going to see more generalized automated finance. As it pertains to different banks collapsing, as we saw with Silvergate, Signature Bank, just First Republics of the world, this also gives a lot of indication on how banking infrastructure should work. So DeFi is a fabulous technology. It is a way to create different types of financial products in an open source, decentralized manner. And the reason for the collapse of a lot of these banks in the last few months is due to the fact that they were closed sourced Web 2.0 based platforms that had the ability to rehypothecate assets and invest in long-term securities while applying not so optimal accounting practices. What DeFi can do is better optimize how information is allocated for these different banking platforms and create a more transparent system. So to answer the first part of your question, there's a huge future for DeFi. DeFi is here to stay. The real question that that the future Web 3.0 companies should be asking is, how do you build DeFi in a safe and optimized way that it can integrate very properly with existing traditional finance structures? And those companies that successfully do this will become very successful.
Now, I'm curious to get your take on whether you anticipate more crypto companies will move offshore. We're seeing some of that right now amid this continued crackdown by the SEC. Do you think that's going to continue in the months to come?
We will see a pattern of more crypto companies and developers moving offshore. That being said, it's important to recognize that when you look at the broader markets that DeFi and crypto is trying to disrupt, that market absolutely includes the United States. That company absolutely includes these jurisdictions that have the heaviest of regulations. So I'd say that there would be a temporary movement offshore, but it's more of a wait and see perspective. It's after there's better regulatory clarity, you will see more companies figure out, well, what are the laws that need to be followed and what are the frameworks that need to be used to successfully deploy this technology. So there's talk of the digital asset market structure bill. Once frameworks like these are instantiated, they'll provide better clarity so that more companies will know the rules and regulations as they build the technology to instantiate all of these new capital markets and financial market use cases.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today, but we'll be back again tomorrow, so we'll see you then.